Welcome back. So, Mr. Showme, we're talking about the people and the developments, basically. So, that question I asked you about the Supreme Court thinking about the residents of the LCDAs and then giving the judgment it gave as regards Lagos, do you think the people were not considered?
Yeah, they did. They actually considered the fact that Lagos State has a right. The House of Assembly, they have a right, to create those LCDs. And they enacted a law, that created them. So on the other hand, again, the Supreme Court also recognized the fact that the National Assembly has a role to play in terms of amending the number of local governments, in the Constitution to take account of that. But the National Assembly, one way or the other till today, refused to take a position on it. And what that consequently means is its incoherent is not yet fully created to attract, the federal allocation like the other 774 local governments. So in the meantime, precisely, in the meantime, there are institutions created by law in Lagos State. So the Lagos State government needs to ensure that they have the funds to operate. And that is exactly the situation. We should move away from the theory that we have to go to Abuja to collect money. Local government must be funded by local people. So therefore, I do not see what is wrong in taxing people, to fund local government to deliver services to them.
To deliver services?
Yes.
Who is delivering the services here? Local government, right?
Local state government. Let me give you a good example. We've had a very grim report about the current Lagos state government. I live in Lagos, and I'm not speaking for or behalf of anybody, APC or not. But what I have seen in Lagos, as a commuter in Lagos, I'm so impressed with somebody's government. The simple reason is I go through 3rd Mainland Bridge. I knew what it used to be. Today, you can easily drive to 3rd Mainland Bridge. It's a lot better. Baga used to be a major headache for people living around this area. And today, Baga is a lot better.
In terms of traffic congestion.
In terms of traffic. Go to Agbado, Keodo, Axis, in Alimosho. All the roads, I think about 21 roads there are tarred. I was surprised the day I drove through the place. I went to Ekpe the other day. The whole of Ekpe has been transformed. I was highly impressed with what the government did, what they've achieved. It's a different thing when you say, okay, look, maybe they could do more. That's a different thing. But that they have not achieved anything, I don't agree with that.
In other words, your answer to my question is, no, we're not due for a change.
In terms of a change, the people will have to decide that. The fact of the matter is the people will decide on the basis of the performance. My own personal opinion, because of the way Ambode's government has impacted on my home business, the way I move around in Lagos State, I will vote for him. In Agege, where my dad lives, another bridge is being constructed. They are trying to ease road. So from a personal opinion, if I have to make a judgment, I will vote for him again. Because he has impacted,
You're like, let's bring in Mr.
Mr. Gwendomosi, please hold your horses. Thank you.
Dr. Fasome, now, when I heard that you were a psychologist, I was looking forward to hearing what you would say as regards to thinking of a man who lives in a place where he's not getting all that he needs to get. For instance, I mean, before now we used to hear of independent power in Lagos, captive power, I think that's what it's called. They have captive power and all of that. But today you find out that it's not in existence. We have 2 distribution companies in Lagos, so to speak, 2 distribution companies. And yet we're not getting enough power. We have enough generated, but where does it go to? What about captive power? So in that thinking, what about water? In that thinking, for instance, the estate where I live, we used to get government water. In 2014, it stopped. Then bills keep coming. But there's no government water, but the bills keep coming. So what do you think the electorate in those kind of areas, how would they be thinking as regards the politicians, I didn't call any party, politicians in Lagos?
Thank you very much. Well, the truth of the matter is that we have 2 basic needs, according to Maslow. We have the higher order needs, we have the lower order needs. The lower order needs comprise basic needs of life. Number one of it is physiological need, which that water that you mentioned is part of. Now, you discover that Nigerians are battling with physiological need. It's not just about Lagos State alone. That triangle, at the base of the triangle, you have the masses. The masses that do not have access to basic needs. Then you don't even talk about power when you don't have water to drink. You don't talk about power when you know that your life is not secured. You don't talk about power when you know that you cannot even do your business because the environment is not conducive. But the truth of the matter is that Nigerians are not ready to change. Why do I say that? Now, you have two parties in this case, the politicians, all the politicians. Okay. Then you have the masses.
Okay, so that's
the politicians, whether they are in APC, ASN, or whatever political parties, you discover they are one. You can see the rate at which they are just moving around from one political party to another. So they are the same. But now we have the masses who always bear the brunt. Now look at it. How many people do you think can pay for the nomination form? Only the politicians, or majorly politicians. How many people do you think can afford good lives in Lagos? Most of them are politicians. The masses are suffering. But the challenge is that the masses are not actually ready because there is an exchange. The exchange between the politicians and the masses, the two parties now. But that exchange needs to be defined. Until the masses are ready, to liberate themselves, nobody will do it for them. Okay. The politicians are always ready to impoverish the masses, but the masses are not ready. Since they are not ready, the trend is likely to continue for a while.
Okay. Mr. Gbadamosi, without mounting the soapbox, what are your chances in Lagos State?
Again, the honest truth is I'm not sure what my chances are. It all depends on, like I said, whether the masses are ready for real change. He mentioned earlier that, just to address some of the things he said very quickly, he mentioned earlier that, the local governments were created by the state government, by the State House of Assembly, which is their right under the Constitution, and that they have to find ways to fund them. Now, the question I want to ask is, did they not know, did they not think it through when they were creating those local governments, that how are we going to fund this? That's number one. Number two, in order to fund the local governments, the state government doesn't need to take the federal allocation, one, that's coming from the federal government to the local governments. It doesn't need to do that. Number two, the state government does not need to create unconstitutional bodies like LASA, Outdoor Advertising and Signage Authority of Lagos State, which is taking away a constitutional responsibility of the local governments. When they created the LCDs, they could simply have said, okay, now we've created all these LCDs. All of you go to the 4th schedule of the Constitution and go and start carrying out those responsibilities. Abattoirs, markets, outdoor advertising and signage, tenement rates, and all the other responsibilities that are enumerated under the 4th schedule of the Constitution. They could have simply given them those responsibilities and asked them to fund themselves through those ways and means. Instead, the state government created all sorts of bodies that took away all those responsibilities and obligations from the local governments and then said, okay, now we need to fund the local governments. Who's fooling who? Who is deceiving who? There is enough on the ground to service the LCDAs if they are left alone. If the state government says we are creating these LCDAs, we want them to become local governments, then leave them alone. Let them carry out the functions of the local governments. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the state government should not fund them. In fact, there's a constitutional responsibility on the state government to provide 10% of the federal allocations that comes to those local governments as additional subvention to the local governments.
Hold on. Wait.